We've got some people joining us. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this Friday for our interactive webinar series today featuring our warden, Gary McNamara, and our Windsor-Essex Chamber President and CEO, Rakesh Naidu. For everybody coming on, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. We've got an info@ email address that I've posted to the chat section. If you take a look, it's info@windsoresexchamber.org. If you have any questions or feedback for the chamber staff, go ahead and send them and we'll make sure that it gets to the right staff member or other authority. And we also update our website and social media daily. So I've posted in the chat our handles. There is a little bit of a mistake. Our Instagram handle is attached to the next webinar, my apologies, but the next webinar is on Monday at 2:30, same time as today, 2:30 to 3:30, featuring Rocco Rossi, and he is the president of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. So we'll just give it another minute while the rest of the attendees join us. And I'll repost. Also, if you have any questions for today for either Rakesh or Warden Gary McNamara, please post them in the chat section. We will be monitoring those questions and they will be addressed in the Q&A portion of today's webinar. Welcome, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll give it one more minute for our attendees to join and settle in. Sorry about that, I just froze. Okay. Let's give it one more minute. We've got about half have joined us. Hope everybody is doing well. Again, for anybody that's coming just now, notice if you would like to ask us questions, if you have any questions for either Rakesh or Warden Gary McNamara, please post them in the chat section. We'll be monitoring them and they'll be addressed in the Q&A portion of today's webinar. And if you have joined us for our previous webinars, know that they will be made available on our website in the coming week, in the next couple of days. So please be patient with us. We thank you. And they will be available for on-demand viewing. Okay, I think that we can get a head start. And right now I will hand it over to our Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Rakesh Naidu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's keeping well, staying healthy, staying indoors where possible. Rakesh Naidu, President and CEO of the Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce. For those of you who have been with us in the last 3-4 days of these webinar series, welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the webinar series. This is an initiative by the Chamber to help you connect directly with our elected officials, with the experts in the region, so that you get to hear from them directly. There is a lot that's happening, as we all know, and we wanted to make sure that you have the opportunity to hear from them as soon as possible, and you have the most updated information with you, the latest and the greatest information, because it is very, very important that we are equipped with the latest information that helps us if we are a business owner or if you're an employee or whoever, we need to be informed as to what is happening and what kind of support and resources are being offered by all levels of government. So it is our endeavor at the Chamber of Commerce to help you with that information, to lead you to the right resources, to give you the information that will be pertinent to your business so that you can be up and running, or you can deal with the situation to the best, in the best possible manner. So that's the reason why we're doing this. And this week we've done 4. This is the 4th one. We've brought in Eric Kusmerichek, our MP, our mayor of City of Windsor was here yesterday with us. And today we have, we're actually delighted to have the Warden, Gary McNamara, with us. So these are all very, very busy people, but they understand the importance of connecting with you and providing you the information. So we thank all of them for making time for this, and we are hoping that you will keep connected with us, and you feel free to to provide us the questions that you have via the chat, as Marina pointed out. So do not hesitate, do not be shy. If there is something that is of concern to you that you want to communicate to us and through us to the elected officials at any level of government, please feel free to bring it up. You can put it up in the chat section today, or even if there's something that comes to your mind which is after the event, feel free to reach over to us. You can send emails at info@windsoresexchamber.org. We are monitoring that round the clock, and we're taking that information, and through that we are also designing the questions that we're asking the elected officials. So your input is valuable. It's through your input we understand what is happening in the region. We get a pulse of the business community, your challenges, your concerns, and we are relaying it to the elected officials. So a lot has changed, as you all know. Yesterday we were talking of the Canada Emergency Relief Benefit Program that the Government of Canada had announced. And you'd heard about, the Chamber talking extensively about providing support to small and medium-sized businesses and giving them the assistance, whether it is cash flow assistance or whether it is helping companies deal with employees that they are continuing to work with and get some assistance via wage subsidy. So we're very pleased, and you might have heard about this. We're very pleased that the Government of Canada has gone forward and announced a relief package for the small and medium-sized businesses. So today they announced the Canada Emergency Business Support Program, which is basically a support for the small and medium-sized businesses, where they've announced a wage subsidy of 75%. Now, this is something that I have to say that we sincerely welcome, thank, and applaud the federal government for doing that, because this is something that we've been advocating for a very long time. Well, I say long time, it's been weeks, but it does seem like a long time. But it is extremely important that we get that, because we want the companies that are in operation today to not shut down their operation, not lay off people. It's important so that they can provide the products and services today, but also if they remain open, these companies will help us in recovering and getting out of this situation faster. So we need the companies to be operational. and the wage subsidy goes a long way in making that happen. So again, congratulations to the federal government for going forward and providing a 75% wage subsidy. Now, it's not very clear in terms of some of the criteria around that, who's eligible, who's not eligible, how long it will be for, and all of that. I know you have those questions, so do we. We try to gather information as much as possible, but we've been told that there'll be more clarity around this come Monday. So as soon as we find out more, we'll be sharing that with you as well. And hopefully on Monday, we'll have more clarity on this. There's also more assistance. There is the government is offering $10.5 billion additionally through EDC and BDC. So this is good. This will help companies, small and medium-sized companies, deal with their operating fund issues, cash flow issues, and also there is going to be for eligible companies $40,000 in terms of loan that you can get from your banking institutions, and this is going to be a no-interest loan. Of that, for companies that qualify and are eligible, 10,000 will be waived off. So this is good news again. It's something that small and medium-sized business were asking help so that they can use that towards cash flow, towards their working capital. So again, more information will be shared as we get that. And of course, there is the the GST and HST deferral and import duties have been waived off, and this is all being done till June. They're also $85 billion in taxes and remittances that the federal government was levying, that has been deferred as well. So these are all very welcome initiatives. If we layer this with what was announced by the provincial government yesterday, where they are deferring the provincially administered taxes till August. They're also workplace the safety and insurance board, the WSIB premiums. They are deferring that, and also there is the employee health tax, which is also being deferred, or there's an exemption also, where the exemption limit has been increased from 490,000 to 1 million. This will offer further relief. The property taxes, the provincial portion, the province yesterday announced, the provincial portion that goes towards the school and education board, that has been deferred as well for 90 days. We will ask that question to our warden in terms of what is happening locally in the county. And then there's, of course, the regional opportunities investment tax credit, where more information we are seeking from the province in terms of whether our region, which has been affected significantly and where unemployment level has gone up, whether us as a region can benefit from that as well. So we're going to find a lot more information soon in terms of the program from the federal government as well as what is coming through the provincial government. So today, as I mentioned, we are very fortunate to have Warden Gary McNamara join us. He's been very busy, as you can understand, and it's not easy. He's not just the mayor of the town of Tecumseh, but also the warden of the region, which means he oversees the county, which consists of 7 other municipalities. So as you can understand, it's not easy coordinating all these municipalities, and every municipality has their own laws and bylaws and so on. And at this point of time, to make sure that everyone is coordinated, everyone is offering support and assistance in a coordinated way through the individual municipalities, but also as the county is challenging. So I commend Gary for doing all the good things that he's been doing consistently, tirelessly working on our behalf. So I thank him for that. Gary, welcome to this webinar series, and appreciate much you making time. We know that you've been very busy. You've been working extensively with the mayors, not just in the county, but elsewhere as well, and through AMO, the network that you have there as well. So we'd love to hear from you in terms of what is happening regionally, locally here. But before that, I just want to, just let everyone know that it was only a few weeks back that, the warden and I were talking about the Wardens Luncheon, which we had planned to offer, which is an annual luncheon where the warden comes and informs us, updates us on all the happenings, what is happening in the county, the developments, changes to infrastructure and everything that the county has been doing in the last year. And he was very excited to come on and do his and provide his remarks at the luncheon, because there were so many things that were positive that he wanted to share, and we were really looking forward to that. Of course, things have changed, as we all know, in the last few weeks. It's a very different world. But we thought that we will still, request the warden to share a few of what he wanted to share as part of his remarks. So with that, Warden, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Rakesh, and thank you to the Chamber for giving me the opportunity to certainly have the opportunity to speak with our constituents in the region. You're correct. I wish I could have, the whole luncheon was based on a lot of good news from 2019, and just my own travels across this great county. I put over 4,000 kilometers of going to the various events and dealing with our great county. But we've been thrown a little bit of a curve, and we've got to deal with this very, very serious issue. And I think at this stage right here, Rakesh, is maybe I can give you a little bit of a synopsis in terms of what's transpired at the county and certainly our 7 constituent municipalities or lower tier in terms of how we're dealing with the COVID-19 issue, and just to give a little bit of state of where we're at. And as we all know, these are extraordinary times, and we all know it calls for extraordinary measures. And this is why the County of Essex and its residents, I fully believe, Rakesh, that we're up for the challenge. And but we're going to have to be patient, and but most importantly, we're going to be very prudent in terms of what we do. And that's why we need to be proactive. And if we do that, we will get through this crisis certainly together. Our focus right now, doing everything we can, and we've heard it so many times, flatten the curve and slow the spread of COVID-19 so that our hospital systems certainly don't get overwhelmed. We can see what happens when you don't take measures in place. Just in Michigan alone in the United States is enough to give you a sense of urgency in terms of why we need to do that. That's why, Rakesh, we, in the audience, we declared a state of emergency on Sunday, this past Sunday, and we did it with the full support of our local municipalities. It's really a precautionary and proactive measure that places us in the constant state of readiness to deal with COVID-19 and any other emergency issues, and one in particular as well that's we're very concerned, and to put us at also a state of emergency is the flooding issues and the rising lake levels. It seems to have been sidetracked a little bit, but we're certainly well aware of the issues that can bring in itself. It allows the county to focus on providing essential services to residents, and it aligns our resources and our priorities to face the crisis certainly at hand. And our essential services are continuing in the face of this crisis. Our roads crews, just not that long ago, we had that little bit of a snowfall. They were out salting roads, making sure that the roads were safe for our drivers. Our recycling, our garbage, our policing, our EMS. Those are folks that are working hard on a daily basis to maintain those service levels that are critical. I mean, again, critical to our constituents. So we, as everybody else, County Council now for the social distancing, as well as we're using technology like Zoom. We had our first inaugural meeting on Wednesday, and for now in the foreseeable future, we'll be meeting virtually for meetings. Very, very, very happy. The cooperation with obviously in the region, our 7 communities, the 6 mayors and deputy mayors, and all of their support staff, and we've been on constant contact on a daily basis in coordinating our efforts together, so that obviously we need to be on the same page as we deliver essential services to all our folks. And so all of our emergency control groups are in a state of readiness as we speak. And cooperation coordination like this always reminds me about a quote from our namesake, Chief Tecumseh. A single twig breaks, but a bundle of twigs is strong. And I'll tell you, we're a bundle of twigs, and we are strong in Windsor-Essex, and we certainly will endure. We've, as many other communities, put out a call out for medical supply donations, and we're certainly hearing from many of our companies, like Hiram Walkers, and many of our tool and mold shops, and as well, who are now ramping up to help us and make sure that the additional supplies that are required to protect our frontline services, like our hospitals, our nurses, our firefighters, our EMS people, police, will have it in hand. I want to personally thank everyone for supporting our local businesses. Lots of folks are ordering takeout food every night. You know, the Takeout Tuesdays that was started in Windsor. And let's do it again next week and the week after. And don't forget, in the county, we have Wine Order Wednesdays. And as you know, we have a lot of good wineries throughout our community. And but most importantly, those businesses, Rakesh, that are members of your great organization, are working, you know, hard to make sure that you know, food is delivered and prepared for us, as well as our grocery stores. A lot of those folks are in my opinion, are also heroes in our community to make sure that we have a sense of continuity within our area. Tourism Windsor-Essex has launched a great campaign to boost our spirits and celebrate our region has to offer, and those places that can go, and those who are struggling to stay open, let's support them. You know, whether it's takeout food or buying you know, gift cards. You know, we need to stay strong and continue to strengthen their resolve in making sure that at the end of the day, they're going to be you know, flourishing once we get through this particular issue. County business, a lot of our community, by the way, it has responded to the crisis, and we live a kind of compassionate community, an extremely resilient and resourceful one. Like we've had our ups and downs over the years, and we've always been able to bounce back, and I'm certainly that we will do that again. And county residents, I want to thank them, you know, for doing their part to try to flatten the curve and slow the spread of the virus. I want to thank them for being kind, compassionate, and for phoning and FaceTiming their friends and serving their families. And I want to thank them for again, shopping responsibly as well. I know there was a bit of a panic rush early on, but I see now people are understanding that we've got to be there to support each and every one of us, and in particular our seniors and those who demand a little bit extra help and a little bit more care from us. We need to be kind to them. To the kids, Essex County as well, it's not fun being cooped up in the house. I certainly get that. You know, and you're away from your friends and your sporting events and activities. And I know missing school and birthday parties and sleepovers are probably getting a little bit sick to, you know, mom and dad. But we're asking for your patience and certainly your understanding. Help support mom and dad and in dealing with this issue as well. And thank you for helping out your parents and so forth. There's a lot of bad news lately, and it's impacting a lot of folks, and we haven't seen the worst yet. We know that. It's frustrating and more than a little unnerving, but we all feel, whether our paramedics, politicians, teachers, municipal workers, nurses, personal support workers, and parents. How are we going to keep our kids occupied without school? And at these times like this, it's important to focus on what we can control. Our attitudes and our actions. Let's try and stay positive, and let's try to look out for one another with kindness and certainly compassion. Our local agencies are sharing all kinds of coping techniques that we can try. Maybe just stopping to watch the news for a little bit and get outside, take a walk, be conscious of where, the social consciousness is important. Read a good book, watch a funny movie, get yourself permission to take a break from all the bad news. And everybody, we need to decompress. That's critical. I want to, finally just praise our staff and their incredible work that they are doing under incredible circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 24/7 job for our staff, and they're working hard. Our paramedics and our police and fire and our administrative staff, our public works, our water divisions, those who are out there because of essential services. If you see them, say thank you. Give them a little bit of a boost. I think it'd be good and good for their morale as well. And if you've been paying attention to the federal and provincial governments, they put out a lot of dollars. A lot of announcements have been made. There's still some work to be done, and I'm sure there'll be some questions in terms of municipalities and what we're doing to also help in that regards. And so with that, Rakesh, it's kind of a bit of a Reader's Digest in terms of what we're doing and into the county and pretty much likewise in every community. But I just want to extend my thanks again to the mayors, deputy mayors, their councils, administration. The cooperation has been terrific, including the city of Windsor. We're working hand in glove together to maintain a sense of continuity within our community, providing services for our citizens.
Thank you, Warden. Thanks for those remarks and for also highlighting things that we need to be very, very we need to follow, and we need to be careful about our own conduct in the community, and also what messages we are passing on to people, especially when it comes to complying with the directives and the information that's coming out from our health unit. Extremely important. We cannot take this lightly. And yes, we hear about there are those individuals out there that still are not getting it. And through our network and everyone that's in here, please pass the information to those that you think are not yet taking this seriously, that it's time. The province just a few minutes back sent an alert to everyone that's returning from outside of Canada that they have to self-isolate, and it is mandatory. So it is mandatory if you are coming from outside of Canada for you to self-isolate for 14 days. So please pass on this information. Let's not take this lightly. There are a lot of healthcare workers, frontline workers that are putting their health at risk to help us. They're going every day to ground zero, taking care of people, taking care of patients, and please let us not make it any more difficult for them. So Warden, thank you for your comments and for providing us an update as well. As I mentioned, there are quite a few municipalities that you're working with and the mayors that you're working with, whether it is locally or outside, you're in constant connection with the other mayors. Tell us, what is it that, the Alliance of Mayors, what is happening there? What are you hearing from them, whether it's locally or outside, in terms of what's the best way to respond to the situation, and what is it that's being done to help the community and what measures are being taken locally through the county, and and also if you could share some information on what's happening in individual municipalities, including Tecumseh.
Thank you for that, Rakesh. Obviously, monitoring our social media, our websites are critical, and although we're getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of questions within the community, that was the rationale why we decided to do the state of emergency, because a lot of things that are happening within all of our communities is filtered up through our administrative staff, and they meet on an ongoing basis, as well as whatever we hear, mayors and deputy mayors and councilors as well. All of that information is fed in, and we try to coordinate things within our own community. For example, the shutting down of parks equipment. That was something that was talked about through an individual who was requesting that maybe we need to disinfect our play equipment, our slides. Well, that's impossible to do, as you know, but then that created an opportunity for us to have some dialogue with our neighbors and everybody else, and said, look, we have there's a lot of walking space and opportunities, but we're going to shut down equipment so that people don't, it's not there as an attraction. Social distancing is extremely important in these particular issues. Also, looking at equipment, looking at what assets that we have that they don't have, we can combine them and share resources. I think those are very key points. No different than what's happening in the province. I was just with my AMO board meeting this morning, and it seems to be the same issues filtering with everyone. One of the key things that we messaged to the provincial government this morning as well is that it's no different in other difficult situations we got out of 2008. Even going as far back as all of the different recessions that we faced and so forth. The best way to climb out of this after the fact, once that's cleared up with us, is through infrastructure stimulus. That's going to be a critical piece. That's going to get our business community back in sync again. And a lot of announcements were made prior to this whole issue, and we have reinforced the fact that as we move on beyond COVID-19, which we will, we need to have a ground-ready, shovel-ready project, which we all do, to get the economy going. And by doing that, it'll put a lot of horsepower into the economy again, which is there. And I can tell you, the 444 mayors in Ontario are 100% behind that, because that's critical to get our business community up and running again. Very, very, very important.
Thank you, Warden, and I completely agree with that there needs to be a stimulus package that needs to be offered beyond what is offered now. And, yes, there is a significant amount of money that is being offered currently, which is needed and very much appreciated. But if you need to really get the economy back on its track, the stimulus package has to happen. And we've been advocating for that even before COVID-19 hit us this bad, because we are seeing signs of the economy slowing down and our manufacturing industry slowing down, and the other sectors as well. So we started working and advocating to the federal and the provincial government for the stimulus package. I'm glad to hear that all the mayors are on the same page on that. So hopefully whenever the time is right, we can start pushing more towards making the stimulus packages right, and it is offered at the right time. So as regards locally to to the county, tell us what are some of the services that have been disrupted or maybe discontinued, and are there any permits or inspections that will be waived off in the near future? It's not business as usual, we get it, but are there any modifications to permits, or is there any disruptions to services that you are that you are already seeing, or that is likely to happen?
Thank you for that question. There are some programs that were existing prior to COVID-19. You know, community improvement plans, and we do have incentive programs in many of our communities. City of Windsor has the plan. Tecumseh has that plan, and many other. If you were to establish a business in our community right now, and a greenfield type development, that we've waived the building permits. That's been waived on that. Some of the tax penalties now, you know, we're in uniform with it, with the 7 municipalities in the county, where we've waived them for 30 to 60 days into the future. We've worked, our associations worked very hard, and the government announced just recently that the reassessment program with MPAC is now postponed for a year. That AMO was pushing that right from the get-go. Also, the school board, the school taxes as well, to be suspended and pushed back. Those are certainly some opportunities to help keep money locally in people's hands, because obviously what's important today is you know, putting food on the table and some sense of income coming in. The time of use on our electrical utility, that's going to be passed through to all of our residents. So there's because folks are at home during the day, and it wouldn't be fair to them in those terms. So that was another area that municipalities were pushing to them. We've also suspended penalties as well on late payments and so forth on the water bills, as well as the electricity bills as well. Again, you know, we know the important issue for our constituents is put food on the table right now.
Thank you for that. So just to clarify, so the property tax, the municipal portion of the property tax, you have deferred that for 60 to 90 days?
It's the penalty, Rakesh. One thing I'm going to explain, there's two things that municipalities, property taxes make up for the largest amount of dollars required to operate municipalities. To say you can't pay taxes and we're just going to forgive them, I wish we could do that, but we can't. Number one, because that's our only source of revenue to operate our community. What we're saying is, if you can't make your payment today, we're not going to charge you a penalty down the road. This is what we're saying. We're giving you some leeway for some municipalities 30 days, some are 60 days, depending on when their initial first third of the bill. And so we're basically putting a penalty deferral to make sure that it's not there. The second part of that is at the end of the year, we must have a balanced budget. We cannot run deficits. And this is an item that we've been basically also bringing forward to the provincial government, which is a critical point for us, and is what we're spending today in managing our operations and providing you know, those services to our community, with a lack of funds coming in and so forth moving forward. The only means that we can balance our budget at the end of the year in operations is raising property taxes. And we're saying this is not the time to raise property taxes because of an emergency situation that's here. And so by the declaration, that gives us a little bit more capabilities, but it's important for the province to understand, and some municipalities can carry a little bit more than others, but this could be very, very difficult for them at the end of the year, because we have to balance our books.
Got it. Yeah. So the province has, you know, the province collects a portion of the property tax that goes towards the school and education board. and they have deferred it for the next 90 days, if I'm not wrong. The city of Windsor has done the same, so it's basically, what you're offering 30 to 60 days is so 90 days being offered by the province, and the city of Windsor is doing the same. Is that something that you would consider doing it just so that it gives more time for people to recover from the situation?
Well, this, again, you mean deferring their taxes, period?
That's right. Yeah. Because right now, you are allowing taxes to be deferred and not charging any penalty on the late payment. So basically, if someone was due taxes this month, they get 90 days to pay the taxes and not have to pay any penalty on that because of late payment charges. So, and the province has said that we'll allow them to do that for 90 days. Is that something that you consider?
Well, that's in 30 to 60 days. That's in essence, because if you don't pay your first installment, you're going to be penalized 1.5% on that. What we're saying is that from the 30 days or the 60 days, depending on which municipality, you're deferring that. That means, obviously, you're not, if you pay your taxes in 30 days from now, you're not going to pay any penalty for not paying. So in essence, you're shifting. I'm not, and what we're also saying, if you are in a position that you can afford and you can pay your taxes, then certainly pay your taxes, because obviously that's a municipality's cash flow, and to provide the services that we need.
Got it. Yeah. And in terms of services, are there any disruption in services? The essential services, garbage pickup, collections, your EMS, police, fire. Are you seeing any disruption in any of these services?
Not at this time, Rakesh. Our frontline first responders in that are operating as if everything was okay. But again, you have to understand, and people have to understand as well, is that they're the front lines and they're exposed to whatever the element is at any given time. We're giving them, and hopefully the equipment and to protect themselves. But at this stage here, this is why it's important in the role that we have to play as regular citizens, to pay attention in terms of what our actions are, because we don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system. We don't want to overwhelm our EMS system, and certainly we've altered protocols on how fire services do mutual aid with the EMS and so forth. But all in all, we as individuals, we have a responsibility as well to make sure that we don't overwhelm the system by social distancing, by making sure if you don't have to be out and about, don't be out and about, and so forth.
Right. And in terms of any permits or inspections that you usually carry out, are those departments still functioning normally? Do you foresee any delay in providing permits or getting inspections carried out?
We at the moment, we've got projects that are in site plan control and so forth. And the difficult ones, Rakesh, right now that are in the hopper are the ones that require the public information centers and meetings. Obviously, we can't get, we certainly can't gather. Others that are in the hopper that have gone through all of that process, have passed all the necessary official plans and bylaws and so forth. I can't speak for the rest of the municipalities on this one here, but I can speak about Tecumseh. That part of it is business as usual. That's moving forward. Thank you.
And the county is in a very interesting situation because two of your main industry, one is the mold, tool and die, which Tecumseh, your own municipality is the hub for North America, I would say. They are going through an interesting phase where there's only 71% as per the latest survey result that came out of CAM. Only 71%. Or actually 71% are continuing to operate, so only 13% or 23%, I should say, have either closed down or partially closing down. And there is business that these companies are doing. In fact, there's also some stats coming out that some of them are hiring, even in this current situation, which is a good thing. So there is a need for labor for all these companies that are continuing to operate. The other big sector in the county is the agribusiness and food processing sector. And the greenhouses are going through some very challenging phase because, it's a growing season for them. It's a busy season. Access to workforce is extremely important for them, to carry out their operation and to be able to, to sell their fresh produce. This is a challenge because of, the initial constraint of bringing in temporary foreign workers, which later on the federal government, decided to open up. But it still has not really helped completely because the temporary foreign workers that are brought in have to self-isolate for 14 days, and not all of them are here, and we won't get the full supplement because some of them may decide not to come. So the greenhouses are challenged to get the workforce. The manufacturing sector, some of them are going and they would continue to operate, and they may not have the workforce because some of them are laid off on EI. Some of them may come back. So there is a challenge for workforce that we're going to see. Is there anything that can be done locally to coordinate activities? Because there are quite a few people that would be looking for jobs, and there is this sector that is looking for jobs, and we need to find a way to connect them.
That's a very, very good point, that Rakesh. I know we've got to continue to feed the citizens, and food safety is a critical piece of that. I know that there's been a lot of dialogue from the Greenhouse Growers Association and the federal government on the immigration piece itself. It's kind of like a good news, bad news. I mean, a lot of the COVID, has been in the countries of the Caribbean, and many of them that are coming here. It's been traveler related, meaning bringing it into their countries and so forth. This is why the strategy was so important to the federal government to address this right now, because obviously the field crops itself, as you know, we're marching on to spring, and it's going to be very critical within the next 4 weeks, and to deal with that particular aspect of the industry. The greenhouse industry, as you know, many of them have employed 200 to 300 to 400 people. And obviously the first, I believe the first crop is coming. And so it's important that they have the folks there to be able to harvest that and so forth. I think working with our local opportunities here might be able, to fill that gap, especially those who are looking for employment. Certainly an opportunity for them to fill that gap, which were non-traditional. People never wanted to work in those particular industries, but there seems to be some now some urgency to the Growers Association to make sure that they've got all of that in place. So I know, working with our local MP here, Eric, he has brought that to the cabinet table, how it's needed, but it's urgently needed to make that decision. But you're right, if they do come in, there's that 14-day period that has to be addressed, and we've got a 28-day window, so to speak, right now, especially for getting the field crops ready.
Right. And, Dharmesh Patel, the president of Ontario Motel Restaurants Hotel Association, is here with us. And, he brings up a very important point that there isn't really a lot of clarity when it comes to self-isolation for the temporary foreign workers. When they come in, the hotels are being asked, to help them self-isolate, whether it is going to be one person per room or whether it's going to be 2 person per room. There isn't really a lot of clarity, while the hotel and the motel industry are going to step up and help to the extent possible. But there needs to be more clarity in terms of what, who needs to be isolated for what duration, whether it'll be 1 per room, 2 per room, and all of that. So hopefully we'll get more clarity on that. I don't think that exists today. So I don't know if you know of anything there, but Warden, that's something that we will also try and gather information on.
I'm not the expert to really answer that question, Rakesh, but I would say that there's no doubt that our local medical officer of health in the health unit would certainly have that. I know that just recently the board did announce a program of inspections for the health unit to go and inspect bunkhouses and so forth, not necessarily for COVID-19, but making sure that they meet the criteria of public health in Ontario. I would surmise that, and I know that question has been brought to Dr. Ahmed, and I know he's certainly dealing with that particular issue to make sure that we have the necessary infrastructure as well here on making sure that the 14-day isolation is done properly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And in one opportunity here to connect employers and the employees is the international students that we have. There is thousands that we have in the region. We've St. Clair College and University of Windsor have been very successful in attracting many of them. And at this point of time, they find themselves with hardly any support because, no EI coverage applies to them. Their jobs have dried up. They still have to pay rent. They still have to put food on the table. So this may be an opportunity for us to get the students who are willing and able to work at these greenhouses and the other sectors that need employees badly. The constraint and the challenge is that they're limited to only 20 hours, which is not enough at this point of time. Our growers need people for longer duration. So maybe, through you and the AMO network, we can get this across to the provincial, minister that this is a time for us to open it up beyond 20. And I think there is a federal component as well. But I think the province and the feds can look into this, especially at this time. And this could be an interim measure that they could put in place till things normalize. Because it will help both sides, students who desperately looking for work and employers that are looking for talent.
A very good point. I think we should have a conversation after we're finished today. But I think you make an extremely valid point, because I think the numbers, I could be corrected, but I think the numbers between the university and St. Clair College are probably in the 8, 9, 10,000 students.
About 14,000.
There you go. So I think there's some potential opportunities that we haven't even thought of at this stage here, but certainly this is something that would be, I think, of great interest to the Growers Association, as well as working with our federal government and provincial government.
Thank you. The other issue, Warden, we're hearing a lot, especially from small, medium-sized businesses, be it restaurant owners, motel owners, or hotel owners, is the disruption of business. Obviously, they've been asked to shut down, and business has been completely disrupted. They have been, for long, they've been paying premium to insurance companies, which is to help them with business disruption or business interruption due to natural disaster. And if there were a natural disaster, they should be compensated for that, and that's the reason why those premiums have been paid for so long. This, one can argue, but this is nothing short of a natural disaster. So these companies have gone back to their insurance companies and have asked for them to be reimbursed so that they can put their organization back on track and can get some relief. But most of the insurance companies have denied their claims. I think this is something that we need to again look in through your network, the mayor's network, and we need to really push through the province to the insurance companies, because this is more of a provincial mandate that the insurance companies work with the businesses who are there to claim for, I think, which is a very legit demand at this point in time.
That's an excellent point. I mean, maybe I would like to just to hear from the Insurance Bureau of Canada. They're the lobby group for obviously the insurance industry throughout the country. to get their perspective in terms of what they're thinking, meaning the insurance companies themselves, and they're quick to sometimes they're quick to take our premiums, but sometimes you've got to work a little harder to get some of that back. But certainly that's something that should be brought up, especially from our local mayors. I think that you make a very valid point in that, in talking with our local members of Parliament, but in particular to bring that right to cabinet. I think also balancing whatever was announced today. I know the Finance Minister Morneau did bring out another package in terms of the business community and more or less creating some loan guarantees as well. I don't know how they would fit into into that plan, and until I think Monday or Tuesday, they should be coming out with that more suggestions in terms of how they're going to divvy out those dollars for the business community.
Yeah, and while this is all very welcome, whether it is wage subsidy or whether it is access to interest-free loans, the challenge some of the companies, small businesses have is that they may receive the wage subsidy and they may also have access to the funds, but if the business isn't there, then neither of them is useful for them. They won't be able to keep the operation open because there is no need for employees, and the business isn't there, they don't necessarily need the access to capital. So it's challenging for those businesses where the business has completely dried, and for them it'll take much longer and support more beyond what is being offered now. I think normalcy has to return. We need to get back on our feet as soon as possible so that the foot traffic can come in. People can go back to the normal ways of conducting one's life, and where operators like restaurant owners or motels or hotels, spas, salons, they can get their customers back. And I think that's where they will then be able to get some respite.
Well, and I just want to add to that, Rakesh, the retention piece, in terms of employees and that, to ramp the business back up, you gotta have employees to be able to do it, and to not to say that they wouldn't have any at that end, but it's the training and the qualification of individuals that are ramping up those businesses again. That's a problem in itself, and I think that's why I think it's important for the subsidy piece, and if companies, especially the service industry, is probably going to be, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but my opinion could be the hardest hit moving forward. At least would have the assurance that at the end, with that subsidy and so forth, they would have a qualified staff to get back into the thick of things.
Thank you. Thank you, Warden, for that comment. There are a lot of businesses, local businesses that have stepped up. There is a great example of Vistaprint, Cavalier, Laval Tool, and so many more that are, coming up with new business models, things that they have never done before, but just they are stepping up so that they can make products and services available that is badly needed at this time. What message do you have for businesses and others in the community in terms of the help and the support that you need now?
Could you repeat that one? I just missed part of it there.
So what message do you have for businesses? How can they be of help to you now? And how can others in the community be of help to you now as we're dealing with this crisis?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, and I stated earlier as well, is if you're in a position of, I'm going to say a position of strength, you can sustain yourself, better than your neighbor. Maybe helping your neighbor, I think is a big piece that I think can help. If you can hang on to staff without laying them off and taking advantage of the dollars that are going to flow from the federal government and that, that I think is another key a key component, because at the end of the day, every little bit that we do, whether I call it a mini economy, to keep things kind of just afloat, will be helping everyone, including our municipality. Others that is basically take your cue from the health professionals, meaning the public health people and so forth. If you don't need to be open, then, you know, because of whatever non-essential piece, I think that's important as well. For those businesses that are, it's more of what we can do to help them, like the restaurants and many of the other ones, you know, Takeout Tuesdays and so forth. Take advantage of whatever you can to help them at least maintain a semblance of their business, so that they can stay afloat until it happens. So I guess it's teamwork and a partnership that we need between our business community and us. And you know, as much as the municipal order of government is kind of in the trenches with the business community, it's important to know that we'll do what we can. We did it in 08, and to help support you know, our industries and so forth, but we're limited in terms of how we can do it. But I can rest assured that we are going to do everything that we can to work collaboratively together with the business community to help support them the best that we can.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, extremely important this time for us to work collaboratively and make use of the innovative capacity and capability that we have in the region, and the companies that are stepping up. Thank you to all of those companies, you know, for going way beyond, you know, at this point of time to help out.
Yeah.
Great example.
I just want to add, like, I always said we're unique here in Windsor-Essex and the deep Southwest and so forth. We are the best builders, the best growers, and the best innovators, bar none anywhere. You know that. You've gone, you know, from your responsibilities here at the Chamber and previously with the Development Commission. The talent pool in this area is incredible. And, you know, for folks to just change their production from building widgets to, you know, or car part here to respirators on the other hand, is incredible. And my hat's off. My hat is off to the business community here and everybody else that supports them, because I can tell you we're very fortunate to live in a very great, I'd say great region. I mean, like I said, we grow things, we grow the best. We build things, we build the best, and we innovate. And I think that's why the challenges for us here locally, we're going to get through this thing because of the entrepreneurship that we have here is second to none. Absolutely,
absolutely, Warden. And to those companies that are doing things which is out of the ordinary, where you're making products which you never did before, you're helping out in a big way, you know, we tip our hat to you, you know, great work, you know, and this is, we understand, is not something which is driven by profits, because this is where you are putting your own resources, not even knowing, you know, whether this is something that you'll make money out of or not. So we're doing this just out of general goodness to support the community. So thank you so much for that. Also to those growers that are taking the fresh produce and offering it to the food banks, which we all know are having huge constraints, and you know, their stocks and supplies are depleting by the day. And there are a lot of fresh produce growers that have stepped up and have provided the fresh produce. So to the growers, you know, to the manufacturing companies, and to all those out there, whether it's technology companies or whether it is, you know, hotels and motels that are offering their rooms for people, you know, to stay and self-isolate. Everyone that is out there that is helping out, you know, we really are thankful to you. The Chamber is collecting all this information, and we're going to have a page where we're going to list all of these companies that are offering either a product or services that can benefit the others in the community. So if there is anyone that is hearing me today, if you're having a product or a service which you're going to be able to offer to others in the community, maybe at a discount, maybe complimentary, please connect with us. We'll make sure that your information is prominently displayed at the Chamber's page, so you get the visibility that you deserve because you're out there to help others. And we want to make sure that whatever you're offering is conveyed and communicated to the rest of the community. So with that, Warden, I really want to thank you again for making time. You're a very busy individual, and especially at this time, you've got 101 things to do. We appreciate you taking the time. I have just glanced through all the chats, and I think we've covered most of the questions that has come from the attendees. But if there's something that we have not covered, and if you like us, to pass to the Warden and convey to him, please send them back to us at info@windsor-essex-chamber.org. We'll collect that and make sure that the Warden receives that, and we are taking back his response and relaying it to you. Sorry, Warden, you had something to say?
I just want to add, just before we sign off, I think one of the questions that was being asked is, what advice do you have for our community?
Yes.
And I would say, in a few words, don't worry about things you can't control. Just worry about what you can control. Be kind, be compassionate, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this with flying colors. I know there's going to be some suffering. There is right now, some of the folks that are not well and are recovering. But those items, I think, are key components for us to move our community forward. And just worry, there's an old saying my dad used to tell me. He says, worry about the nickels and dimes, the dollars, they take care of themselves. And that's the whole thing. Just control what you can control. Don't worry about anything else. And if you feel anxious and anxieties, there are people to call and take that advice and make those calls. We're here to help.
Thank you, Warden, and we know that for sure. We're going to make sure that any information we receive or question or concern or input, we will relate to you, and we know that you are there and you'll answer them, and we'll take it back to our business community. Thanks for being there for us and for doing all the wonderful things that you're doing. Stay safe. We need you more than ever, and you and your family stay safe. And for everyone that is listening in and watching this, stay safe. Keep your eyes and ears open to information that is coming in from the Chamber. We've got a landing page where we have put all the latest information. We are making sure that we get all the information and make it simple for you to understand. And we're giving you most pertinent information that's latest and greatest. So we want to make sure that, with so much information that's coming in from different sources, we want to make it as simple as possible so that you get, the information that's most relevant and pertinent to you. So, and if you have any suggestions and input, please feel free to connect with us. We'll be very happy to receive that. So stay safe, and again, maintain very safe social distancing. Do your best in terms of taking care of hygiene. Do not travel if it is not essential. And whenever you meet, healthcare workers and all the people that are essential services workers, when you meet or you hear from them or you're able to connect with them on social media, to thank them for everything that they're doing for us. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday with Rocco Rossi, who's the OCC president, and we'll bring him back. We'll hear from him in terms of what is happening in Ontario and what we can do to get the Ontario government to work with us and help make things easier for us. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you very much.